The league is talking, and this time they are saying that the Chicago Bulls appear ready to make a serious move at the deadline. Word is that AK is seriously feeling the pressure to make a move, but will the Bulls actually do something this time, or is it just all talk? Are we buyers? Are we sellers? Are we stuck in playing purgatory yet again? Today we're going to break down AK's new reported mindset, the real trade assets of the Bulls have, Ayo Dosunmu's 3 teams that are interested in him, and he must win tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. All that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content today, y'all. And from Brett Siegel, he says this: there's promising news surrounding the Bulls and Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations, Artūras Karnišovas. According to several league sources, Karnišovas has been more transparent in trade talks and more realistic in asking prices since last year's trade deadline. The feeling from other executives is that the momentum is carrying over heading towards February 5th trade deadline, as Karnišovas could look to get something done with this roster. So now the question is that just because he appears ready, how ready is he really? Right now, it's good to hear that the asking around the trades are more reasonable. We did hear at the beginning of, I think it was the beginning of this year, maybe it was late last year, that teams don't like working with the Chicago Bulls because of whether it was their asking prices or just the way that teams weren't necessarily apt to do moves with Karnišovas and the Chicago Bulls. So if it seems like he's now more ready to get stuff done, he now has a more realistic kind of understanding on exactly what the market's going to look like. Does that mean that something finally gets done for the Chicago Bulls? You guys know the place that I've been at with all this trade talk and everything is I still come down to the same thing, is that I don't think anything happens because I haven't seen it. I'm going off the history. I do think Karnišovas is somebody who he's stubborn in his asking prices. He's stubborn also in making moves that he feels doesn't make the team worse, even if it's short-term to longer-term stack assets. And until I see otherwise, I'm going to remain that mindset. Now, I'm not going to act like he can't show it. Is it a possibility to actually do something? Yeah, the possibility is there, right? But the question then remains, and even the question that's asked in this article from Joe Cowley is that, is it a major tweak or is it a complete overhaul coming for the Bulls? Now, that's the question a lot of Bulls fans are asking. You have different Bulls fans on each side of the argument. You have the Bulls fans that are like, blow this thing completely up. You have some Bulls fans that are like, hey, just make strategic trades. In my mindset, I don't see a complete tearing down of this roster. We basically already done that. If you go and look at where the roster was 2 years ago, at the beginning of the 2023 season, let's just say that, to where it is now, this roster has been completely changed. Now, that doesn't mean that every piece needs to stay. It depends on how you look at that. Like, you have 7 players on expiring contracts. Not all of those players are going to come back. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 3 to 4 of them come back because this is AK, but not all of them are going to come back. Are you making moves for that, right? The trade market seems very active, and there are a number of players. We're going to get into it. There are a number of players that are out there apparently ready, but you got to say, and Kevin Huerter talked about this as well himself. He says this: as a player, you always want to be whole. That's maybe that's maybe been a missing piece that we felt throughout the season. It doesn't feel like we've been whole outside of a few games, so that part of it sucks. Like other stuff, trade speculation, that's not for me to worry about. That's more you to worry about, get caught up on. It can affect the way you're playing on the court. You got to stick to what we're supposed to do, which is show up every day and try to win. That's how it always has to be as a player. And that's true. I mean, you look at Kevin Huerter. He's been on several different teams over his career. He's a vet, a younger vet, but he is still a vet, right? So you look at him trading from the Hawks to the Kings, right? And that happened, and then moved from the Kings to the Bulls. He's been part of other franchises. So he's somebody that understands that you can get moved at any time, right? So the question now becomes about really what does this team want to do? Is it a major move? Is it a major kind of reshaping of the roster, or is it just a minor tweak? And I think a minor tweak still is big for this team, depending on what it is. If you make a minor tweak and you go out and get that defensive center that you need, that I think helps this team tremendously. But at the same time, with as many assets and things that the Bulls have stacked up, you got to ask yourself, how serious are they in it? And that brings us to the next part of this conversation, right? And I feel like we do this every 2 or 3 days, but the Bulls assets, right? So if they want to be sellers, if they want to be buyers, that's still the question here for the Bulls. And that's even throughout all the rumors that we hear, it goes back and forth, right? We had Brett Siegel initially say call the Bulls sellers, and then most recently said, well, now it's kind of more expected for the Bulls to be buyers at the trade deadline. That's Siegel. Jake Fisher has gone back and forth as well, right? So even these guys who report rumors, it's gone back and forth between the Bulls trying to be buyers and the Bulls being sellers at the trade deadline. And many people may ask, well, what's the difference, Haize? I think the difference is simple, right? If you're sellers, that means that you are selling the best assets and that maybe you are getting future assets back or expiring contracts or draft picks, whatever it is, young players that haven't quite scratched the surface. If you're buyers, it means that you're going after the bigger fish, meaning that you're using the Ayos, the Kobes, the Kevin Huerters, the Zach Collins, the Jalen Smiths, those players to go out and get you a kind of a bigger player that is going to actually help kind of change your direction. And those are the two differences. But the Bulls' assets are known, right? Let's just talk about it. We know the Bulls' assets. 7 players on expiring deals that contribute to or combined to $80 million. The Bulls also have a $17 million trade exception that I think is important if the Bulls do want to be buyers at this trade deadline. The ability to take on a $17 million player and not have to match the salary fully is a huge plus in a team like that. You also would create a trade exception for the other team, which could be a benefit to them. The Bulls have all their draft picks as well that they can fit in if they do truly want to be buyers at the trade deadline. And then, of course, the players that we have, the expiring contracts. On top of that, you have Trey Jones, Jalen Smith, who are players that do have 1 to 2 more years left on their deals that reportedly teams do have an interest in bringing to them because of their play and because of their contracts. And so that's what the Bulls have to sell. What's out there to buy on, right? Now, of course, we've heard everything from Trey Murphy, who we now hear that may no longer be available. The Pelicans may actually not be taking trade calls on Trey Murphy at all. That's cool. But then, of course, the players that we've heard, Sabonis, Jonathan Kuminga have been names that have been mentioned in that. Of course, Daniel Gafford has been a player that's been mentioned in that. And Nick Claxton, right? So Sabonis, Kuminga, Claxton, those are kind of the players that are most commonly known to be available, right? Of course, the Daniel Gaffords, but we don't know with how injuries and stuff have changed the Mavs mindset on that. Those kind of players are available. Then you have kind of the big stars out there that are reportedly available. The Ja Morants, the Anthony Davises that don't really seem like they maybe fit what the Bulls want to do, but those players are out there. I mean, that's the key thing is that there are big fish out there. There's players at every level that the Bulls could acquire. They can look to go after a Daniel Gafford, that type of player, a Paul Reed who is eligible to be traded as well. They can go after those type of players that bring kind of the style that you need but aren't technically considered big swings, which would technically leave them open to still pursue a Walker Kessler or a Mark Williams in the offseason if they decide to trade for those players now. That's a big possibility for this team. If they want to be sellers, they have pieces that reportedly, depending on how you want to look at that, teams are interested in. So it just comes down to all of that and how it's viewed. But AK has an opportunity to be aggressive out here. And I say the opportunity because that's really all it is. We don't know exactly how the Bulls pieces are viewed. We've heard rumors on Trey Jones and other players having a high value, but until we actually see a move being done, there are going to be people who necessarily don't believe in that, and that's cool. You have reported interest in Coby White. We talked about the teams that are reportedly interested in Coby White yesterday with the Hawks and the Pistons and some other teams, the Minnesota Timberwolves being other teams that could be there as well, right? So that's a thing that you have to look out for as well when it comes to this. But, there are players that also could be, kind of lateral moves, but maybe they change some things for you. Jaden Ivey right now, who's a player that, with Jalen Duren's rise, and the Pistons are going to match him, they're going to give a rookie scale extension to Artūras Thompson. Jaden Ivey could find his way out, and maybe at this trade deadline he is available because he's a restricted free agent this summer, and that's somebody that could be available, right? So there are options out here. Of course, the Vooch aspect of this all matters as well. Are any teams going to bite on Nikola Vucevic? I don't really think so, but we'll see. Like, where do things have happened as part of other deals? We've heard that the Bulls are aggressively shopping Patrick Williams, but nobody wants his ass. No surprise there. You can aggressively shop a turd all you want to, but not that many people are going to polish off a turd and try to buy it, right? So that's what you have to deal with in regards to that. So we'll see. The Zubaks that are available, the Daniel Gaffords that are available, that you have an example to do that. According, Anika Okongwu is, I believe, Okongwu is also reportedly has some level of availability. with the Atlanta Hawks, but you probably have to give up Kobe White in a deal like that. So there are a lot of things that we've heard that are a possibility for the Chicago Bulls team. We've seen it. And that's the case. I think, we got to see what this Bulls team is going to do, but a major tweak or a minor tweak or a major move. That is really the question that comes down here. And major either way, buyers, sellers, small move, big move. What do the Bulls really do here at this trade deadline? And ultimately, I don't mean to take away the excitement from it or to bury the lead, but one thing I never do here is I want to gash all in and thinking some crazy shit's going to happen. I don't think it is. I think this is going to be a trade deadline that if we do see a move, I don't think it's going to be a big move. I don't think it's going to be a move that completely alters the Bulls' trajectory or anything like that. I would love to see it. I don't expect it. And this Bulls team definitely is going to make a move that puts them in the area of tanking. They're not going to make themselves too much worse. So with those things all there, I just want to be realistic with you guys on, hey, if something gets done, I don't necessarily think it's going to be a major move. They have the capability of doing it. I want to keep making that clear. This Bulls team has all the assets to make a big swing if they want to. A $17 million trade exception. I forgot another almost $2 million trade exception. So the Bulls almost have $20 million in trade exceptions, $89 million in expiring contracts, all your own first-round picks. You can trade a first-round pick out to 2035 if you wanted to. You have all these things. Well, I think you can only go 8 years. But you have all those things available to you. What's AK going to do? What is AK going to do? And ultimately, that is the question here. We don't know that about AK. AK is somebody that's so hard to read because he'll randomly do something like making a trade for Nikola Vucevic, going out and getting Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, Alex Caruso when you have no cap space, and then sit on your hands for the next 3 years, right? So with this opportunity to kind of reset and retone what type of roster that you have between now and free agency. I want to be clear. It's a whole transaction period here. The trade deadline now is the first transaction period. You then have the entire offseason as well. And it should be looked at as kind of one transactional period because things that you do at the deadline directly set up your flexibility in free agency. And that's really kind of where the Bulls have to kind of paint this tapestry to kind of make this make all sense by the end of it. And that's where the faith in the Bulls kind of wavers for me. I don't know what's going to happen with this team. I don't know what AK is going to do. And so the Kobe White, how available is Kobe really? We've heard an unprotected first-round pick. But then you do things that seem unserious. Aggressively shopping P. Will, you already know that that's a turd that nobody wants. Nikola Vucevic as a veteran on an expiring deal, I just don't think even if teams are interested that they're going to be willing to give up assets, they'll wait to free agency to either force a sign and trade or just sign outright with their mid-level exception. I just don't see much else for Nikola Vucevic out there. But hey, I could be wrong on that. And that gets to, again, does AK have something up his sleeve? Because not that many people expected the Bulls to be the one to trade for Vooch when they traded for Nikola Vucevic. And despite how it ended up working out and Bulls fans viewed it, people viewed that as a very aggressive move. Vooch was an all-star and somebody who was looked at as seen as a walking double-double. Yeah, the defensive limitations are already there, but that was considered a pretty nice swing for a Bulls team that at that point had no direction. So you just never know with AK. And I know common thing, there are going to be so many people even under this post that are like, oh my God, we know the Bulls aren't going to do nothing because they've never done nothing, which kind of is true but isn't true at the same time. We just got to see what's going to happen there. But that leads us to the next thing. One of the Bulls' biggest possible trade chips is Ayo Dosunmu. Playing really well off the bench. His play prior to getting hurt was amazing. He was averaging like 16 points off the bench on hugely efficient shooting. He's still the Bulls' most efficient scorer as it stands right now. But now we're hearing that 3 teams are in on Ayo Dosunmu heading into this trade deadline. The Pistons, the Magic, and the Rockets. Those 3 teams are in on a possible Ayo Dosunmu trade. And that's what we're hearing right now. Of course, the Pistons just make sense, right? You get a defensive guy next to Cade Cunningham who also is a two-way player, right? Ayo can also score. And that would be one of the best two-way backcourts in the league when you look at the way that Cade Cunningham has also grown as a defender for the Detroit Pistons. I know there's been talk early in the week of Kobe White potentially being target of the Pistons, but if it does end up being Ayo Dosunmu, I can see the vision with the backcourt. Also has a cheaper contract than Kobe White. His extension's also going to be cheaper than Kobe White. And so, and when you look at the on-off thing too, when Cade's off the court, Ayo can actually run some point, and you can do some things through him, something you can't do with really Jaden Ivey. So if that's the case, it would seem like, hey, that's a player that has some interest, or a team that the interest in Ayo Dosunmu makes sense. The question then becomes about, is Jaden Ivey and Paul Reed enough, right? I think that's what the Bulls should be looking for. It can't just be Jaden Ivey, in my opinion, not with the season that Jaden Ivey's having and the fact that he's coming off injury. If this was last season, it probably would have been a 1-for-1 swap. But now, because of the injury stuff around Jaden Ivey, and I guess one could say that with Ayo too, but even Ayo still performing at a higher level than Jaden Ivey is so far this season, I would like to see the Bulls try to make that swing for Paul Reed and Jaden Ivey if it's the Pistons personally. And then you move on to the Orlando Magic, right? Now, the Orlando Magic, when you look at them potentially going after Ayo Dosunmu, is he upgrade over Tyus Jones? Yes. Can he play with Jalen Suggs more than Tyus Jones can? Yes. I think that's the thing that they also need to be looking at, is the synergy in the backcourt. If you have a three-headed backcourt with Jalen Suggs, Ayo Dosunmu, and you still got Desmond Bane there, and you have, those players in Bane and Ayo who are versatile guard options, you have that, right? So there you go with that one. Now, the question is that with Anthony Black and the ascension that he's had this year, are they really still looking for a guard? Brett Siegel doesn't say that in this article, but it does make some sense to question that, because Anthony Black is having what definitely could be considered a breakout year. Absolutely. So you have to worry about that. And then the team that probably has the biggest need for a point guard that really can change, I think they're tied to solidify their championship hopes, and that is the Houston Rockets. The Rockets only have really Paul Reed and draft picks to offer, right? And the question is that Paul Reed is a player that, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want next to Josh Giddey. I just don't like. I get it, he's a shooter. I think he's small. I don't want that next to that. Would you bring him off the bench as a shooter? Maybe. If you move Ayo, or you're moving Kobe. So that's the thing Kobe's probably saying at that point. You're then bringing a shooter off the bench. He's undersized, though, so there's a little bit of a question there. But reportedly, that's kind of really what they're looking at, is using Paul Reed, maybe some of their future picks to get that done. And keep in mind, this is a Houston Rockets team that has tons of picks that they have available to themselves over the next few years. They have a pick swap with Brooklyn in 2027. They have the Suns pick, I think, in 2027 as well. So you have that you can look at for. They got, picks going out to other places. They have all their own picks after 2030 that they can move also. So that's a case as well. I was a player that a lot of Bulls fans want to keep, not only because he's from the city of Chicago, but we recently came out that Ayo said he wants to stay in Chicago, right? So, and I think we all kind of knew that. I never got the feeling that Ayo wanted to leave the Chicago Bulls or anything like that. Like, I think as long as the Bulls make him a respectable offer, Ayo's going to take that offer and not even think about meeting with another team. So the question becomes about, are you just moving him because of the asset that he is at that point in time? And that may very well be what they're looking at. So, there's a lot of things up in air right now with this Bulls team and the moves that they could potentially make. I want to be clear to say that this is all potential. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It doesn't mean that these teams are going to, match the Bulls' asking price. We've heard what they're asking for Kobe White. Haven't really heard a lot of what they're asking for Ayo Dosunmu, and I think that's because Ayo's not much available as the rumors would have you believe. I just don't think that. We've heard at the trade deadline they turned down calls for Ayo Dosunmu last year, and I think that shows that there's a level of, they view Ayo as part of this core, and that's just my personal opinion. I could be wrong on that, and a team could come with an offer, especially a team that desperately needs another guard in their rotation to solidify any type of championship aspirations, that maybe they are willing to put an aggressive offer that the Bulls look at and say, hey, we would have loved to keep Ayo, but this offer is too good to pass up. And that's what we got to see for this team. But hearing that those teams, again, the Rockets, the Pistons, and the Magic are the teams that are most aggressively going after Ayo Dosunmu at this trade deadline, those teams don't surprise me at all. What the offers would be from those teams are things that I think you really have to look tough at in that case. So we'll see what the Bulls do. But let me know what you guys think down below on that one. Do any of these teams interest you in a Ayo Dosunmu trade? And what would you want back from the Pistons, the Magic, and the Rockets in regards to now? And no, you're not getting an Amen Thompson. You're not getting a Artūras Thompson. You're not getting any of those players. So if you come with that, I'm not blocking you. But become realistic. A realistic move. Realistic. Keep that in mind. Realistic. So I just want to hear from you guys on that one. But with that said, the Bulls do have a game tonight. They take the court tonight against the Brooklyn Nets. And this is a team that's already beat the Chicago Bulls, right? So we can't come into this game and act like, oh, we got this because the Brooklyn Nets only have 11 wins on the season. Like, you just can't do that. This is a team that's already pushed the Bulls to the brink before. You can't take anything for granted when you're the Chicago Bulls. We already know that, right? The Bulls can't take anything for granted, and they're going to Brooklyn on top of that. This is a team with the Bulls that You can lose to any team on any given day. Now, the Bulls, I think, also can beat any team on any given day. But if the Bulls get this win today, this puts them one win closer to 500. Last time we played against the Brooklyn Nets, we lost by 10. So that's, again, it's not a team that you can take lightly at all. But the Brooklyn Nets are one of the bottom teams in the league. They're 25th in defense, 26th in offense, 23rd in true shooting, 23rd in effective field goal shooting percentage. Despite the amazing season that Michael Porter Jr. is having for this team, they've only won 11 games. But you still got to look out for them. This is still a team that you cannot overlook. And so when it comes to this one, the Bulls got to play with that same energy that they've been playing with. Come into this game and act like it's win or go home situation. You have to act like you are playing against one of the best teams in the league because you cannot afford to take a night off against this team. They have players that can absolutely fill it up. No doubt about that, right? They have players that have killed the Bulls before. Michael Porter Jr., Cam Thomas. These are players that have absolutely cooked the Bulls before. So you can't overlook what they can bring to this team. So the Bulls have to be ready for this one. Defensively, stay communicative in that. I think Kobe White is playing in this game, if I'm not mistaken. But you got to stay on your P's and Q's in this game. You have to stay elevated. Attack the rim. The thing that the Bulls have been doing in these last couple of games that have made them look so good is the continual movement off the ball and the continually attacking the rim. Jalen Smith has been a huge part of that, right? So as it stands right now, Kevin Huerter is listed as probable. Julian Phillips is out with a cyst on his wrist, so he's going to be out for a little bit of time. We just got to see what the Bulls can take care of in this game. Let's hope that they get it done. And yeah, we shall see what's going to happen here, y'all. But let me know what you guys think on all of that down below. That's it for today's episode of Chicago Bulls Central. You guys know we're here every single day. Should the Bulls stay patient or should they be more aggressive at the trade deadline? Do you want to see them be buyers? Do you want to see them be sellers? Drop your comments down below. This trade deadline is coming fast, and the franchise got some big decisions to make, so we're going to see what they're going to do with it. Make sure you guys are following us at Bulls Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, stay safe, go Bulls, and always see you ready for end, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.